Peter's confession at Caesarea Philippi is not the triumphant moment Sunday school made it out to be. It is the moment a fisherman accidentally said something true and then spent the rest of his life trying to unsay it. He would deny it in a courtyard, weep over it in the dark, and still decades later die for it. But that comes later. First, we have to understand where he was standing when he said it, because the ground itself was part of the danger. Caesarea Philippi was not a neutral backdrop. It sat at the base of Mount Hermon at the source of the Jordan River, in a place the ancient world had worshipped for centuries before Rome ever arrived. The Greeks had carved a shrine into the rock face there and dedicated it to Pan, god of the wild, and the cave beneath it was believed to be a literal gate to the underworld. By the time Jesus stood there with his disciples, Herod the Great's son Philip had rebuilt the city and renamed it after two rulers at once, Caesar and himself. There was a temple of white marble built into that same rock dedicated to the divinity of Augustus. Standing at Caesarea Philippi meant standing in the physical shadow of Roman religious and political power. Carved into the mountain itself, impossible to ignore. This is the place Jesus chose to ask the question. To understand why that choice was deliberate, you have to understand what the word Christ, Messiah in Hebrew, actually meant to a Jewish man living under Roman occupation in the 1st century. It was not a spiritual title. It was not about inner peace or private salvation. It was a claim of kingship. It meant a descendant of David who would rise, gather an army if necessary, and break the occupying power of Rome. It meant restoring the throne, the land, the nation. Every Jew standing in Roman Judea had grown up hearing that word attached to blood, to battle, to the end of foreign rule. To call a man the Christ in public was not a theological statement. It was closer to naming a king in defiance of the empire that currently held the crown. Now place that word in that city, a city built as a monument to Caesar's divinity, sitting on stone once used to worship pagan gods, patrolled by soldiers loyal to Rome. Saying you are the Christ here was not an abstraction. It was the kind of statement that got men crucified. And everyone in that group of 12 knew it, because crucifixion was a punishment Rome reserved specifically for those who threatened its political order. This was not blasphemy law. This was treason law. The 12 men standing there had already given up everything on a bet they couldn't fully calculate. Fishermen who had left boats and nets. A tax collector who had walked away from steady Roman income. They had followed this man for roughly 3 years without ever quite settling the central question between them. Is this the one, or isn't he? And if he was, what exactly would that require of them? Jesus asks it plainly. Who do people say that the Son of Man is? It is not rhetorical. It is a pressure test, and the disciples answer easily at first because second-hand opinions cost nothing. Some say John the Baptist raised from death. Some say Elijah. Some say Jeremiah or one of the old prophets returned. Safe answers, answers that keep the speaker at a comfortable distance. Then Jesus turns the question inward. But who do you say that I am? And there is a silence in that moment that the text does not describe but does not need to. 11 other men, and none of them speak first. Consider what each of them stood to lose by being wrong, or worse, by being right. Peter breaks it. You are the Christ, the Son of the living God. Say it slowly and feel what it is. Not a guess, not a theory. A conviction spoken aloud for the first time, in the one place in the region where saying it out loud carried the most obvious danger. Under the marble face of Caesar's temple, on stone once sacred to Pan, surrounded by the physical architecture of every power structure that word was aimed against. Peter names him king in the literal shadow of the empire that had no intention of sharing that title. For one breath, it feels like the story should end in triumph. Jesus tells him this truth was not given to him by human insight, but revealed to him directly, and gives him the name that will outlast him: Peter, the Rock. It is the highest praise any disciple receives in the Gospels. Subscribe, because next week's story is the one where this same rock nearly drowns. And then in the very same breath, everything turns. Jesus begins to tell them plainly what being the Christ will actually require. Not a crown, not an army. Suffering at the hands of the religious leadership, rejection, death. And after 3 days, rising again. He says this clearly, according to the text. Not in parable, not in riddle, but stated outright, as if he has been waiting for someone to name the title correctly before revealing what it would cost. Peter cannot accept it. He pulls Jesus aside, an act of intimacy and authority, a friend correcting a friend, and rebukes him. God forbid it, Lord. This shall never happen to you. Picture what is actually happening in that moment. Peter has just said the truest thing anyone has said in this gospel, and within seconds he is trying to talk that same truth out of being true, because the definition attached to it is unbearable to him. Jesus turns on him with a severity he shows almost nowhere else in his ministry. Get behind me, Satan. You are a stumbling block to me. You are not setting your mind on God's things, but on man's things. This is not an insult thrown in anger. This is the sharpest correction in the Gospels, and it is sharp precisely because Peter had gotten so close to the truth. He had named the title correctly. He had failed to accept its definition. He wanted the Christ who breaks Rome, not the Christ who dies under it. He wanted the crown without understanding it would first be a cross. And Jesus recognizes in that impulse the desire to skip suffering, to protect the beloved from the cost, to choose comfort over the harder truth. The same temptation he faced alone in the wilderness at the start of everything. Coming from Peter's mouth, wrapped in love and fear, it is no less dangerous for being well-intentioned. Here is what the familiar version leaves out. Peter was not punished for being wrong. He was warned because he was almost entirely right, and the part he rejected was the part that would have gotten him killed alongside his teacher. Of the 12 men standing on that road, Peter alone seems to have understood enough of what Christ truly meant to be terrified by it. The others are confused, uncertain, still working out what this title requires. Peter grasps it fast enough to panic. His rebuke was not stupidity. It was love and self-preservation colliding in real time with a truth he did not want to be true. That collision does not end at Caesarea Philippi. It resurfaces in a garden called Gethsemane, when Peter falls asleep instead of keeping watch, unable to sit with the weight of what is coming. It resurfaces one final time in a courtyard by a charcoal fire, when a servant girl asks if he knows this man. And the same voice that once said, "You are the Christ," says 3 times, "I do not know him." The man who named the title correctly is the same man who could not survive its cost, not yet, not that night. Peter's confession was true, his fear was human. The story does not resolve that tension, it simply leaves it standing the way it found it. A man who said the right words before he understood everything they would one day demand of him.